Good afternoon to all. Today's session is for BSc Nursing second year students. The topic is pituitary tumor. In today's session, we will learn about what are pituitary tumors, what are their classifications, what are the risk factors and the causes, what are the clinical manifestations of the pituitary tumors, how to diagnose them, and what is the management of the pituitary tumor. So as you all know, pituitary tumor means these are the abnormal proliferation of the cells or the tissues of the pituitary gland only. Most commonly, pituitary gland tumors are benign and these are called pituitary adenomas. But a pituitary gland tumor can also be act like a cancerous tumor. It may grow into nearby tissues and the structures and it may spread to the other parts of the body. But it happens very rarely. So most commonly these are the benign growth which are known as pituitary adenomas. Now these pituitary adenomas are classified according to the size. For example, microadenomas and the macroadenomas. The spelling is wrong in the microadenomas. Then functional and the non-functional, depending upon whether they are producing the hormones in excessive amount or not. So what are microadenomas? As the name is suggesting, these are micro, so these are smaller than the 1 centimeter, and because these are very small, they rarely damage the rest of the pituitary or the nearby tissues. But macroadenomas, these are more than 1 centimeter. Okay, these are 1 centimeter or more than that, and they have a property that they will secrete the excessive amount of hormone, and also because they are very large, they will definitely press the normal parts of the pituitary or the nearby nerves which are called optic nerves. So we can classify the pituitary adenomas based on their size. These are microadenomas and the macroadenomas. Then functional adenomas, if they make excessive hormone, then these are called functional pituitary adenomas. But if they are not making enough hormones to cause the problems, then these are called non-functional. And these non-functional are also called null cell adenoma, and these are very less. Out of 10 of all the pituitary tumors, only 3 are non-functional or the null cell adenoma. Now because we said that there is an excessive secretions of the hormone, so it depends which hormone is in excessive amount and which is secreted by the pituitary adenoma. So if it is a lactotroph adenoma, it will make excessive amount of prolactin and it accounts about 4 out of 10 pituitary tumors. Then if it is somatotroph adenoma, it will make growth hormones and it makes about 2 in 10 pituitary tumor. Then if it is corticotroph adenoma, it will make ACTH and accounts for about 1 in the 10 pituitary tumors. Then gonadotroph adenomas, these make LH and FSH and these are very rare. Then thyrotroph adenomas, these make thyroid stimulating hormone and these are very rare. Then plurihormonal adenomas, it is not that they will make only a specific hormone or excessive amount, but they will make the excessive hormones more than one hormone. Now what are the risk factors for the pituitary tumor? First, there is no evidence that any environmental factor plays a role in causing these pituitary tumor. Second, rarely it is found in the family, but yes, there are some syndromes which are called genetic syndromes. It has been seen that pituitary tumors can be a part of syndrome which include an increased risk of other type of tumors. So what are these genetic syndrome? First is MEN1. MEN1 means multiple endocrine neoplasm. Why this is called? This is caused because of the mutation in the gene MEN1, and the people have a high risk of developing tumors of 3 glands, mostly pituitary, parathyroid and the pancreas. Second is multiple endocrine neoplasm type 4, and this also caused because of the mutation in the gene CDKN1B, and it also increases the risk of the pituitary tumor. Then McCune-Albright syndrome, This is caused by the mutation in the gene GNAS1, and these people mostly have problems of pituitary tumor, hormonal problems, brown patches on the skin, and they also develop the bone problem. So what are the signs and symptoms of the pituitary tumors? Now, as we know, pituitary macroadenomas, they have a large size, or whether they are functional or not, but because they are large, they can press the nearby nerves and the parts of the brain. So this may lead to headache, eye muscle weakness, blurred or the double vision, and the loss of the peripheral vision. Then macroadenomas and the pituitary carcinomas can press and destroy the normal parts of the pituitary gland. So if they are destroying the normal parts of the pituitary gland, this will lead to the hypopituitarism. And if there is functional pituitary adenoma, it means there will be excessive secretions of the pituitary hormone. So this will lead to the hyperpituitarism. So in the previous 2 lectures, I have taken classes on the hypopituitarism and the hyperpituitarism. So I'm not gonna discuss about the sign and symptoms of hyperpituitarism and the hypopituitarism. You can see those videos in which I have elaborated the sign and symptoms of both these disorders. Now, how to diagnose these pituitary tumors? First, complete medical history, and it also includes the family history and the genetic syndrome. Then, eye examination and the neurological examination, because pituitary tumor will affect your optic nerve and the surrounding parts of the brain. Then, blood and the urine levels of the hormone levels. So as we all know, there are so many hormones which are secreted by the anterior and the pituitary glands, and I already discussed them in the previous 2 lectures. So we have to diagnose by assessing the blood levels of these hormones and the urine levels of these hormones. Then imaging tests, these are very useful. Most commonly MRI is used. Then biopsy is not used mostly, but if the person has undergone surgery for the removal of the pituitary tumor, at that time the biopsy is taken. Now, what is the treatment of the pituitary tumors? For guiding the treatment of the pituitary adenoma, we should assess whether it is a microadenoma or the macroadenoma, whether it is grown into nearby structures like skull bones, whether it is functional or non-functional, and if it is functional, then which hormone it releases. So there are 3 important things for the management: surgery, radiation therapy, and the medication. Medication include the hormonal replacement therapy and the drug therapy. So we will discuss about these treatment one by one. First is transsphenoidal surgery. This is the surgery to remove the pituitary tumor. Why it is called transsphenoidal? Because we are doing the surgery through the sphenoid sinus. What is sphenoid sinus? It is a hollow space in the skull behind the nasal passages. And what happens? The back wall of the sinus covers the pituitary gland. In this diagram, you can see there is a pituitary gland and there is the sphenoid sinus. The back wall of the sphenoid sinus is covering the pituitary gland. So, how this surgery is performed? This surgery is performed through the nasal cavity. We can use either the direct incision on the nasal cartilage or we can use the endoscope. But the entrance point is through the nose. So those people who have transsphenoidal surgery, they most commonly have sinus headache and congestion for up to a week or 2 after the surgery. Most commonly transsphenoidal surgery is used for the small adenomas. But if the tumors are large or more complicated because they are affecting other parts of the brain, then craniotomy needs to be done, in which incision is made on the bony skulls. While in the transsphenoidal, the incision is made on the nose, or either we can use the endoscope for performing the surgery. Second is radiation therapy. Radiation therapy uses high energy X-rays, and this will kill the pituitary tumor cells which are abnormal. Standard radiation is given in a series of treatments 5 times a week for over 4 to 6 weeks. Next is medicines. So we have to provide hormone replacement therapy if there is hypopituitarism, and in other cases to reduce or to shrink the size of the pituitary tumor, we need other medications. Like for the prolactinomas, we can give cabergoline or the bromocriptine. For the somatotroph adenomas or growth hormone secreting tumor, we can give octreotide, lanreotide, and pasiroid and the pegvisomant. For the corticotroph adenomas or corticotropin ACTH secreting tumor, we can give pasiroatide, cryptoheptadine, ketonocoxazole. Then thyrotroph adenomas or thyrotropin secreting tumor, we can give octreotide and the lanreotide. So in today's session, we discussed what are pituitary tumors. These are the abnormal proliferation of cells of the pituitary gland. They can be micro and the macro adenomas. They can be functional or the non-functional. It depends upon whether they are functional, non-functional, and whether they are large or small. The signs and symptoms will be manifested. Then the diagnosis depend upon what type of tumor it is, but the management include the surgery, radiation, hormone replacement therapy, and the drug therapy. Thank you.